Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to thank my IT director to make some time to join to this meeting, all the board members here as well. My name is Kunal Chabria. I'm a system admin for Taters Inc. I've been here working for a long time. You could say I'm seasoned like the potatoes. And we're here to make a decision on the future of the company as to what direction we're going to be headed towards. We definitely are in an interesting path here today where we're exploring several options. I hope you get all the information that you're looking for to make the right decision for the future of our IT infrastructure. Today we'll be looking at adopting an open source model for our future of the company, specifically looking at changing the Microsoft environment that we're used to, Windows 10. We are presented with an upgrade option to Windows 11 now, so it's kind of a fork in our system whether we want to go towards still the paid systems or we want to change to an open source model. And we're going to look at the pros and cons and how it affects our infrastructure. So today's agenda involves going over our current IT systems. We're also going to be looking at the changes that the upcoming Windows environment brings to us. We're going to look at some benefits of the open source model. We're going to look at some solutions that we've looked into and what we chose as the best option for our company. We're going to look at app transitioning, whether how some apps from Microsoft will change into the Linux one if we adopt this model. And we will also be having a live demonstration of a working system to showcase you how our workstations could look like and their potential. Getting started, this is a brief overview of our IT systems. I've separated each department over here. You can see the administrative offices, finances, sales, etc. I've also highlighted the number of employees that are working in each department. I've done that so that you can understand that how much our decision has an impact in our company as a whole and how many employees will be affected by the choices we make today based on this presentation. One thing to note over here as well is that the departments that have been highlighted with that gray on it, for example, sales, mains processing facility, shipping and receiving, etc., all these departments would require a new system overhaul aside from the operating system if we continue to go with the Windows 11 model. That's because Windows 11 requires TPM 2.0. It's hardware level encryption to make the systems more secure. However, the instruction set available inside the CPU is only post 8th generation. And most of the systems are either 6th generation CPUs or below, which would mean we would have to also change the motherboard, and we might be able to rescue a bit of the RAM here and there and the storage devices, but it's going to require some investment from our end. So looking at the changes of the Windows environment that's coming towards us, in terms of business decisions, we have to make a decision fast because Windows 10's end of life expectancy is coming around the corner. It's in October 2025. If we do require more support, we would have to get tailored support, and that's going to cost us a lot of money. Not to mention, if something goes critical, we might face outages. So that's something that we do not want to face. The newer operating system also is involved more towards pushing content towards cloud computing, virtualization, and distributed systems across the cloud. Something that we're not really ready for at the moment, and something that we as a company do not want. So we want to avoid that higher reliability on Microsoft, especially to cut costs and not to be locked in with them. In terms of licensing costs, that's always going to be there if we're going to be working with Microsoft. And I've mentioned privacy concerns. That's primarily because you say the operating systems will be more online based. Now we do close down our system. We lock them down. We disable a lot of the things that are based on these privacy concerns. However, you're then pretty much stripping the operating system from all the new added features that it came with. So that's where we're making a case for open source today, where you do not have to pay for something that you would not be using just so that it looks similar to what we've been used to. In terms of technical implications of the Windows operating system, well, I mentioned earlier TPM 2.0 as a requirement. The resources demanded are higher as well. They're pretty much double than the last previous operating system. So we will have less capacity in our current infrastructure if we were to go this way. The user interface has changed once more with this new release, which means that some of our employees will require some retraining. That's something that we can handle, like workshops. And finally, we'll also have to test our software whether it's compatible with Windows 11 or not. These are the things that to consider in a Windows environment. If we were to go the open source route, so let's have a look what we have. We have a continuous development lifecycle in terms of business. That means that you're no longer presented with newer operating systems all the time, which concerns the end user we're talking about. They will always be seeing the same thing in front of them throughout the years, but we as system admins and the developers that we have, they will be dealing with new releases and kernel updates, etc. So that's kind of something that allows for our business to run without any kind of disruption. There are no licensing costs and maintenance fees, so that's definitely a huge chunk of money that we'll be saving. Less hardware costs as well, as the system requirements for Linux operating systems are not as hefty as Windows ones. We are not locked in by the vendor either, so we're free to do whatever we want. There's no longer your limit per CPU or limit per virtualization environment, etc. We are also going to be seeing a higher return of investment in our IT infrastructure because we will be able to salvage old systems that were no longer supporting Windows 10 perhaps, but now Linux will be able to run in it with less resources. So we can do more with whatever we have. And we don't have to invest again in renewing our hardware. And there is also a return investment in terms of our current workforce and the future workforce that would be joining us. I believe that having Linux as a system increases our talent acquisition out there. People that are generally working with Linux tend to have higher IT skills. They're more proficient in working their way around problems and finding a solution. Primarily being because it's not a system that's deployed everywhere in your households as well. So they have to make an effort to learn these new things, which is in turn beneficial for us as a company. All these benefits provide us with a promotion of digital transformation for our company as well. We no longer have to think twice about testing something in the corner before deploying them. It's free to us. We could do something in the corner project, deploy it. We can ask members of an IT community out there as well, new things that they think are providing value to their organization. And this whole open source model allows for greater collaboration rather than being told by one company, this is the way things are done and this is the way everyone's doing it. We have a free choice to do what we want. Looking at the technical implications, well, the Linux systems do integrate really well nowadays with Windows environments. So if we do let's say we keep our servers running Windows, but then our environment and the workstation is Linux, we're not going to have an issue with that as well, or vice versa. The systems use lower resources than the Windows ones. And if you do strip them out with the bloatware that sometimes comes installed or the GUI interface when it's not required, well, it uses even less. As I mentioned, there's no vendor locks and the whole community of developers, etc., which leads to higher flexibility as well. We just are free to choose on our own what we want to do. And that leads to the final point in terms of technical implications, which is enhanced security. Now, a lot of people have fears when they move to open source because they think it's free, so no one's actually looking for it, and then hackers are involved, etc. One thing to consider is that threat actors like ransomware attacks, etc., they want to maximize their impact. They're not going to attack systems that are not running widely out there. So Linux systems generally running in corporate environments in a small area of them, whereas Windows is running in every single household. So it's in their benefit to attack Windows systems and get more money out of more people rather than attacking a small group of people that are working in a secure environment, first of all. Not to mention the added benefits of other aspects of Linux that provide more enhanced security than Windows environment does. We looked at several operating systems before we decided on one. Here we have a few of them that we looked at: CentOS, Rocky Linux, Debian, Zorin OS, etc. But they all had something that was not really meshing with our vision or had something that was not relevant to Taters Inc., let's just say. For example, CentOS has reached its end of life. Plus, it's a very lightweight system and works great in server environments, but I would not recommend it for desktop environment. Rocky Linux has just been released. However, it's from the same provider of CentOS. Seeing it as it had an abrupt end, we're still a bit hesitant in Rocky Linux to see how it rolls out in the years to come. For example, we looked at Debian as well. We just didn't like how their upgrade model works. They work in a tier-based model, whereas we prefer the traditional model of releasing an update every so often and then formalizing it into a proper release and providing support for that one release over the several years. So that's how our operating system that we chose works like, which I'll mention later. Zorin OS, it works on the same system as Debian, etc. However, it's paid for. It was very stripped down version of everything, and this is something that the DHS and the federal government use for their critical systems, but maybe not so for their workstation systems. We also had other operating systems that we looked at, like OpenSUSE, Solus, which had a high, steep, learning curve for our employees, something that we're not really looking for right now. And then finally, we also looked at Oracle Linux, which we just didn't like where the software is headed towards, where it's tailored for enterprise, which is great, just like us. However, it's not actually taking advantage of an open source model. Rather, it's building paid solutions on free software and then tailoring them based on the added security and the added value that it might provide to our environment. That's not something that we're for. We're actually going for an open source model to cut costs and build our infrastructure ourselves and not being told by someone how things are done. Looking at all those aspects, we narrowed it down to Ubuntu. Why did we do this? Well, first of all, it's the platform consistency. So no matter what the release will be, it'll always look the same. People will not be confused. The goal is to make sure that the user's productivity is not stopped. They just keep flowing with their workflow, and that's exactly what Ubuntu does. It promotes more of a user friendliness rather than other platforms where they either change their looks or just limit things. Something Ubuntu does not do. Secondly, it's the most adopted OS out there in terms of open source. So that provides us with a worldwide talent community to help us out with any issues we might have, new features, and they're looking for continuous upgrades in the OS. So that's something that actually helps us as an organization. We're no longer being, if we move to Ubuntu, we will no longer be targeted by the Windows ransomware attacks and antivirus, etc. So it's a bit more malware resistant in that sense because the users by default also have less privileges. And then Ubuntu also provides us with App Armor. So what that means is it provides actually privileges to applications themselves, regardless of the user. So that's further lockdown of the system, providing even more protection to our critical systems as well. We mentioned the traditional update model earlier. So the way Ubuntu works is that they release updates every 5 months, 5 or 6 months, etc. And then every fifth released cumulative update turns into a long-term support release and is supported for the next 5 years. This allows us to make decisions properly, take our time to understand the changes, and choose a right direction in a more traditional way rather than being forced to move because some security aspects are bothering us and whatnot. We do have the tailored enterprise support available as well through Canonical. So Canonical is the parent company of Ubuntu who develops Ubuntu. So if that's something that it's available for us as an option if we actually hit a wall with any kind of issue. Plus, they're nice enough to provide us with up to 5 servers or 5 workstations of free support. So we can learn a lot from them as well. Ubuntu also integrates, the new release at least, does integrate with Active Directory and Windows networks. So we can use GPO to lock down the system, and provide a domain user basically would be working completely fine with this. You can also integrate with the Windows subsystem for Linux using PowerShell, etc., where you can send commands back and forth and configure those systems. That's something that's being developed more and more. So WSL has been around for a while, but the second release was done now recently with Windows Server 2019 as well. Not to mention, hey, the main aspect of all this is it's free. Ubuntu is free, so you have to think twice about that in terms of costs. And finally, most of our hardware is based on Dell. We have a few HP machines there as well, and Lenovo ones as well. But why did I mention this? This is because sometimes we might run into driver issues, etc., with different systems or incompatibility issues. But we can be rest assured that our current systems, Dell ones mainly, they release high performance preloaded machines with Ubuntu. So we would never fall short in terms of hardware support as well. Now, one thing that a lot of people will talk to me about is, hey, but will I be able to use my Word documents and this and that? Yes, the answer is yes. Ubuntu has evolved to a point, Linux just generally has evolved to a point where there's not much differentiation. It's just more of a fear in the mind to adopt a new system. So I've just laid out here some basic applications which they already come sometimes pre-installed or provide the same kind of functionality. For example, Office 365, well, its counterpart will be LibreOffice. In our case, we've put WPS Office to make it look exactly like Office 365. If we're using OneDrive for syncing stuff, storing data, backups, etc., of our local workstations, well, we can have now them privately hosted on premises. We can use OwnCloud for that. We'll talk about that later as well. In terms of browser, one of the main aspects that we look at is their consumption, RAM consumption, and their security. Chrome is not going the right way that we want. We kind of tell people not to use Chrome. And Edge, well, it's still a bit new now and it's coming up. In our sense, we have Brave for Ubuntu, which is a low resource, privacy driven browser. It also comes built in with an ad blocker. And finally, the main productivity tool that everyone uses is Outlook Mail. We thought that MailSpring would be a good replacement for that because it does look very similar to known mail clients out there in the Windows environment as well. We will be going over this throughout the live demo that we'll be performing now. Okay, so we have here a live demonstration of the systems that we've been talking. We've created a virtual machine that has been equipped with 2 gigs of RAM, 2 processors, and 20 gigs of hard drive. And we've installed Ubuntu 64-bit edition, the latest version, which is 22.04 LTS. And let's showcase this. Let's see how our workstations will look in the future. So I'm just going to maximize this. This was just to show you that it was a virtual machine. Maximize that over here. And so this is the lock screen right now. If I click on it, we get the login screen, just like any Windows machine. As you know, that this can be connected to Active Directory, so you can log in with your domain credentials as well. In our scenario, we're using a local user only. So let's do it. Let's log in. Just like in Windows, when you log in, you'll be presented with a desktop environment. At the bottom, you have the toolbar, which has all the applications towards the left whenever you keep opening them. We have a file explorer here at the bottom left. At the bottom right, we have the applications. So if you click on that, you'll see here that's the installed applications. We have application marketplaces. So these two, that's the GNOME one. This is the Ubuntu Snap one. The system does come pre-installed with a few applications by default to use straight out of the box. For example, the browser by default was Firefox. We changed that. And the Office Productivity Suite was LibreOffice. We changed that as well. We installed a few other applications here. As you can see, we have Brave Browser, MailSpring, Notepad, OwnCloud Client, PowerShell, and Zoom. Looking around the environment, you can see here you have the home users, which is exactly as the file explorer. So if I click on it, it will open your file browser. And like in Windows, you will see on the left side, you have a pane here with all the direct links to your personal folders, documents, downloads, etc. We've also mounted a location, which is hosted currently on the host machine that's running this virtual machine. Here we go. That's me over there, my desktop. So just to show you that it's exactly the same. Here you go. We're actually browsing this right now, the clear folder. So we're going to go into the clear folder. And I don't know, let's maximize this again. Let's bring something to the desktop to see how the compatibility works. Does it let you? Sometimes, there we go. So it'll copy it onto the desktop. We'll minimize this. You can see that's already giving you a little preview. It was quite fast. Double click on that. There you have it. It's open. There's a coupon here for Great Clips if you guys go there. Yeah, so PDF reading is native. So that's something that we will save money as well. Oh, we have our trash down here. We can move that around as well, just as you wish. Right click, empty trash, just like in Windows. Right, so it's time to demo some applications that we've installed. The first one that we're going to demo is the Brave web browser. Here we go. So Brave web browser, basically, we chose this because it was lightweight, it was privacy enhanced, so it blocks the known trackers that track you around, and it also has a built-in ad blocker, which you can disable and customize according to you. Just like in any other operating system as well, we have obviously the home button over here. As you can see in the top left where I'm circling it, just below it, there's the favorites bar. You have the browser's favorite bar over here, the home button. Same type of layouts. You can right click here and show the side panels. Um, you have your reading list. It's exactly the same as other operating systems that our users have used, and browsers as well. You go into your settings option, just like in Chrome, you got Chrome settings. So there's a Brave settings, and you see that the default kind of view looks sort of ish like that. And this is something that will allow our users to transition ASAP to a new browser. The next application that we're going to showcase is going to be MailSpring. It's a mail client for Ubuntu. Okay, so the mail client is up and running. You can see that it resembles the Mac OS mail client, which is very, stripped down of all these images and whatnot. It's very easy to use, just like any other one. You click here on Compose here on the top left, compose a new message. Click on that. Here we go. We have the Compose Mail window. I'm just going to send myself an email. So, Taters, that's me over there. Subject, we are on a live demo. And I'm just going to send that. As a subject, no content. This is the content. Send. Just like in other operating systems, you can fully customize the program, MailSpring. You can change your views, whether you want conversational views, or individual views. You can change your color coding, add flags, etc. It's fully integratable with known email providers like Google, Outlook. You can configure IMAP. It has a lot of options inside there we've not looked at yet, but I understand that this is one of the tools that will add a lot of productivity to our users. So we've received the email here. Just check it. There you go. So we have it there. We're in a live demo. And then, you can go ahead and just click there, reply from within the email. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's very straightforward. The next program that we're going to showcase is going to be WPS Writer. So that one we have over here. And the reason we chose WPS Writer was because it resembled Microsoft Word and its old context menu. You'll see when it loads now in a moment. This is one of the things that most of our users are going to be using. So it goes Excel and PowerPoint, etc. They all look alike the Windows environments. So this is WPS Writer. It's up and running now. It's not responding. Wait. Okay, let's create a new blank file. Here you go. Here you have it. So you have the same insert page layout, the ribbon up here, right? And this is normally the thing that people get
confused about getting used to, again, a new ribbon. So they've made their best to keep it the same way as the Windows environment. Let's have a look. Let's type something in and save this document. Hello, my name is Kunal. Okay. Save as, and you see here there's different file formats as well, docx, dot, etc. So there's a good compatibility range, and you can export as PDF directly as well. So if you click on save, it'll come up with a context menu to where to save. Very easy, desktop, that's where we want it. The name of the file, click save, and that's that. It's been saved. And you can have multiple documents here on the same pane, but as tabs, just like in a browser. That's something that I think will increase our productivity. Okay, so we closed WPS Writer. We got the file that we created just over there. Just going to right click and move it to trash and clear our desktop. Right. So one of the last things that we're going to showcase is OwnCloud. OwnCloud is essentially Dropbox. Now, I could have installed Dropbox because it's available for Ubuntu as well, but I chose OwnCloud because by doing this, we'll be able to create our own private Dropbox system in-house, and we'll no longer be reliable for paying fees for Dropbox for Enterprise, having constraints in terms of storage. You know that the data is safe and secure within your own premises. You know how you want to handle files, and you can also check who's accessing what, have auditing, and it kind of works really well. To give you an idea how this works, let's minimize my virtual machine over here. And I'm going to go into the OwnCloud folder on my PC. So I've signed in into both computers using the same account. And here, for example, let's create a file on the desktop and call it budget. That's our Excel file, our yearly budget. And I'm just going to drop that into this OwnCloud over here. This will sync. And in our virtual machine, eventually, when the machine is synced fully, it will let us know with a little pop-up over here that we have a file available to be used. Let's just wait for a moment. And hey, you don't necessarily have to wait for it as well. So on the top right corner here, you have a little icon for OwnCloud. If you click on it, it generally gives you the recent changes. It tells you when it was last updated. 551, it's 552 at the moment. And there you go. So it says sync activity. Budget.xls has been added. So it tells you, hey. And if you go by day, you can see a lot of things as well. Like on the 14th, we were doing some. Let's see if anything pops up. Nope. Well, never mind. You also have do not disturb, so you don't want to have notifications, etc. OwnCloud lets you also access your files in the browser directly, or you can access the files locally on your folder that it synchronizes. Now, there are some settings we can change around where if you don't want to store files on your computer, you can have them just online available. So that's something that we've done in this case so that it saves its storage. Some people might prefer it having, with them, but that's a preference thing. But just to let you know, give you an idea of how well it works, I'm just going to go into OwnCloud here, and we will see budget.xls over here. Now, if I double click on it, what that does is it sends a sign to OwnCloud telling it, hey, I need this file for the desktop. So there you go. It did its synchronization and whatnot. And now if I minimize it, the icon has changed. This means that file is now locally available on our desktop. If I were to double click it, it'll open it with the Excel editor that we have. So yeah, this is definitely one of those tools that we will be needing in our system and in our deployments. And this is, works just like a charm. So this is our Ubuntu system. You have, other things as well that we've not really looked into that much, but there's obviously a system monitor, which might be interesting for a lot of developers out there to check which, services are running. Our sysadmins as well when they're deploying, just to see how, have baseline benchmarks of the system resources, etc. It gives you proper identification of our breakdown, a more knowledgeable breakdown of what partitions we're using, whatnot. If I delve into, I don't know, the settings options here as well, let's click on that, and you'll be able to see a few of the settings that we can adjust in our operating system. There we have it. As you see, you can adjust your network settings. It says we're connected on a gigabit Ethernet, although that's being virtualized at the moment. Set up a VPN with OpenVPN or other ones as well. It has good compatibility with Bluetooth devices. Our appearance in the background that we've used, with the system icons, personal folders, if you want to show it or not. Multitasking, another thing. So if you want to have the same Windows 10 functions where you can just snap these, let's click here, snap the window to one edge. If I go over here, it should just do that thing, and you work side by side, increasing the productivity. Click on applications now, and this application then gives you the different applications that are installed here and whether they have further settings to be adjusted. So there's essentially, it's like the control panel of Windows, and we have a lot of flexibility on this, and also having access to the command line to do a lot of the same things that you would be doing on a desktop for a lot of people, those especially who know how to work with scripts. Not that Windows doesn't allow it, but those who do know how to work with script and whatnot, this command line obviously gives you a faster access to the files that are available. So you can see ls in desktop, then just move to desktop. You have here, okay, change directory, desktop, go into it, list the files that we have. So we just have shortcut icons over here. It's just more faster to navigate, and we will enable this on a user level for our users. A lot of them might prefer this as well than going around clicking, because it might just save them time. So this was just a brief introduction to our Ubuntu operating system. And I think it's quite a viable solution in exchange of a Windows environment. Zoom is another thing that we wanted to showcase, that it's a possibility to have it installed. That's one of the main things that a lot of people use in our company to have meetings and whatnot. So that's also a possibility. It's been installed. It works perfectly like a charm. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to demo it right now because we're connected through it with our microphone and everything. But we have had successful meetings through it just to trial-wise. That is the gist of our Ubuntu system as of now. And there's a lot more to be explored and configured as well. Although I believe that this does help us understand where we stand in terms of desktop deployments. And finally, whenever you're ready, you just pop down to the top right over here. You have the options of volume, etc. You have here power off and whatnot. I'm just going to click on that, power off, log out, and we will power off the machine. I hope you enjoyed our presentation of our Ubuntu system. That is looking promising. I believe one day it will definitely have a place in our IT infrastructure, and we can't wait to test it out. One of the things I actually wanted to talk about before we end our presentation here is the thing that will make this a success is having a solid strategy. We have to make sure to cover all our aspects, make sure that our manufacturing team is testing this software as well, that our sales guys out there are testing this remotely, and obviously our IT guys making sure that they can deploy this securely and properly. So finally, to conclude this presentation, just to give you a brief overview of what we've gone over, is that Windows is going to cost us a lot in terms of licensing, hardware costs as well. A lot of the changes that are happening are going towards the cloud as well, was something that I'm not looking forward to. The open source route, we looked at several operating systems and narrowed it down to Ubuntu. That is one of the best solutions for us in terms of what it provides. It's free. It's compatible with our current systems. We'll be able to use our deprecated systems again once more if we install this OS onto it. The current operating environment that we have will be able to do much more than it can now because it's more efficient. And well, it's very easy to deploy. And we also have the long support, professional support of a worldwide community of talented developers, and Canonical, which is a private company that provides support for this for free for up to 5 devices and more if we need it. So thank you very much, everyone. My name is Kunal Saznani Chabria. I'm system admin here at Taters Inc., just as a reminder. And if you have any questions or concerns about what we've just gone over today, I'm all ears here. And you can get in touch with me via email, telephone, Zoom calls, whichever aspect you prefer. I'm there to talk to you about this open source software. Thank you very much. Goodbye.